officials from the state government. I'd first like to invite Ms. Manjula. She's the IAS Commissioner and Additional Chief Secretary with the Government of Karnataka. Hello.
Azra, I think Ms. Hephsiba Madam should talk first, and Manjula Madam should go next.
Yeah, sure.
Madam, should that be fine?
Yeah, it is fine.
Yeah, please.
Madam's convenience. Okay.
All right. So we also have, I think Monica ma'am already introduced, but we also have with us Hephsiba ma'am. She's IAS and MD with the Bengaluru Smart City Ltd. So for the welcome address, for the introductory session, I would first like to invite Hephsiba ma'am to share a few words with us, and then we can hear from Manjula ma'am.
Good evening, all ladies and young women participating in this session. I especially thank our Commissioner DULT, Senior Mentor Manjula Madam, for giving me this opportunity and joining all of you in this session this evening. If we connect with what is happening in our country with regard to Smart Cities mission and the post-COVID behavioral change, one thing which is very significant is the India Cycles for Change campaign. Here we are looking at change from different perspectives. One is with focus on sustainable mobility. Looking at the overall theme of sustainable urbanism, mobility forms a major sub-theme, and within sustainable mobility, we are looking at accessibility, inclusivity, and sustainability. So here, when the initial discussion started in the month of July, the Mission Director Smart Cities Mission has given a challenge open to all cities across the country, where cities are asked to participate in this India Cycles for Change challenge, where cities come up with innovative ideas, projects for making cycling related projects or creating a behavioral change in terms of urban mobility, and trying to bring in the local element more stronger into planning. So in this context, Bangalore Smart City also, under the guidance of DULT Commissioner and with the concerted efforts of all the stakeholders in the city, be it the police department, BBMP, and all the partners with regard to mobility, and also the non-governmental organizations, all of us have come together, and we have started with also the big support from the Karnataka State Reserve Police. We have started this campaign for a campaign against violence that happens on roads. In commemoration of the 150th birth anniversary of Gandhiji, we have started this campaign in the month of September. And every Sunday we have been trying to take this message to the local level, involving the local cycling clubs, also the major partners like ULU or other stakeholders in the city, who the bicycle mayor Satya, who actually are trying to promote this cause and the need for this kind of forward thinking. And in this context, I can say every city is trying to learn from other cities, and also trying to have a reflection of what advantages a city has in terms of cycling. When we look at the case of Bangalore, as MD Smart City Bangalore, I can certainly say we have the biggest advantage of something called weather. I think with this advantage, we have also observed in the last 3-4 cycling events that we had, if it is raining or there's a drizzle, it actually has a very refreshing feel while you cycle, rather than it being a pain point. The major pain points of the impediments are the kind of infrastructure and maybe the behavior of motorists, which I think we all need to work on together. And more so when it comes to women cyclists. I can say motorist behavior is directly the reason which makes women feel more secure or more participative or more keen to take up the idea of cycling. in the context of Bangalore Smart City, we are looking at creating a cycling district. For this, we are working closely again with DULT and consultants from WRI, who are actually giving us leads to ensure seamless connectivity in the ABD area of Bangalore Smart City, which is the central business district majorly, and also have last mile connectivity with all the major multimodal transport partners that are there in this particular zone. We have almost identified a 45-kilometer stretch, and we are working very closely to deliver in phases. By the 1st of November, we want to give 5 kilometers initial stretch for people to be able to cycle. And by the end of this year, we are looking at close to 25 kilometers demarcated, dedicated cycle corridor, which will be there for Bangaloreans. From the perspective of women cyclists, I can say, if you look at cycling examples world over, the Dutch people are pioneers. Even in their case, if we read any kind of literature that is there, there is a mention about the skirt guard or the mud guard or the simple elements which compose a complete cycle and the infrastructure, which are very essential when it comes to women cyclists. I think these small things should not be the showstoppers. And together, the civil society, the enthusiast female cyclists, and people who are planning for cycling infrastructure and the manufacturing people, everybody has to come on board and appreciate that it is a no gender specific activity. All of us can pedal, and it's the easiest mode of local commute, and one should not be deprived of it. One should feel safe and also have equal access. I actually came across something yesterday where Varanasi city has actually involved a cycling event where the transgenders participated. So there is no gender, and the other gender should actually be given more emphasis and be mainstream gendering through the activity that we all have already started to head on. I kindly request all other participants also to be open and share your views and thoughts so that our city will learn from this session in a big way. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Those were like very important words. Of course, we are trying to make the system more inclusive for all the genders who are there. I'd now like to invite Manjula ma'am to share a few words with us before we start off with the discussion.
Thank you. Good evening. Ellargu namaskara. It's good to see so much enthusiasm and enjoyment, participation in this session. First of all, let me thank WRI for organizing this event. This is the third webinar WRI has facilitated. The objective of each webinar is to focus on a particular area and to understand that area better and to see what insights we can take for planning the cycling infrastructure or the interventions in a better manner. The first webinar focused on public bicycle sharing system because shared mobility is so important in our cities today, especially these micro mobility options have become very popular among youth. So we had a very good insights from that session. Second was about discussing with the cyclist clubs across Karnataka. So to understand what drives them, what do they want in their cities. And this is followed, and we got really very good inputs actually from that session too. And this third one is mainly to focus on women cyclists and what do they see as issues while cycling, what are the challenges. It could be learning cycling to safe cycling, so all across the entire spectrum, and to be able to kind of, again, use these inputs in planning. As we speak, we are associated with BPAC to do a survey on livelihood cyclists, because we want to know how people who generally cycle for their work, and they have no other option because they cycle because they can't afford any other mobility option. What are the issues they face? So to look at each focus group to understand the needs, requirements, the challenges from their perspective, from their eyes, and then be able to put it into the planning process. That's the objective that we have. DULT is a planning organization, the Directorate of Urban Land Transport. And we have been working on, raising awareness on cycling as a neighborhood commute or a commute for short distances for a pretty long time. For the last 6-7 years, we have been, organizing Cycle Day in association with various communities. And that has actually kind of opened our eyes to the fact that, there are a lot of people who want to cycle. Because earlier, there used to be always this chicken and egg syndrome. People would say, where are the cyclists? We are talking about taking road space and kind of making cycle lanes, dedicated cycle lanes. But people would say, where are the cyclists? Unfortunately, though there may be cyclists and pedestal walkers, they are not visible to the, eyes sometimes. So when we did the Cycle Day, we really noticed a lot of interest. People who have not cycled, who have got married, have kids, and have not cycled for years together, have actually taken up cycling. In fact, I am also, late learner, actually. I did not learn cycling when I was young, because in those times, it was not really, I don't think it was kind of taught to us either in school or everywhere. I was almost into my 40s when I learned cycling. So I understand and empathize with the fact that when you are an adult learner, the kind of challenges that you face are very many. Sometimes these challenges are in your mind also, like you can't cycle with so much freedom as perhaps if you have learned cycling when you're young. So when you're creating an infrastructure in city, we have to look at everybody, age, gender, whatever. And the idea is to make this infrastructure so, seamless and so convenient for use by everybody concerned. And that is where we require to hear the voices of many, many people and to understand, like women cyclists from Bangalore, cyclists who may be occasional cyclists, cyclists who are professional cyclists, cyclists from other cities like Davangere and other places, because each city would have its own requirements, have its own challenges and so on. So what we are expecting from this discussion is that some of the questions very nicely articulated by WRI would have a lot of responses, and these responses will actually give us necessary inputs as we move ahead with planning. Hephsiba has already mentioned Smart City is really taking it on a drive to include dedicated cycle lanes in their planning. BBMP is also, apart from Smart City is part of a BBMP. But apart from that, they are also very, very open to the idea of creating cycling infrastructure. In fact, I feel time is very, very conducive now. I was told by many that you need to wait to buy a cycle. I mean, I can't imagine it was not so some days back or some months back. Now there is a lot of interest in cycling. I see that in my own residential area. People whom have never seen with a cycle or with a cycle now trying to cycle. So there is a lot of interest. So there is a positive environment, conducive environment, around cycling. And I find a lot of political support too is coming in, today. So we have this support, so we need to build upon that. So we are very, very positive about the fact that probably one positive outcome, there could be many, of this COVID-19 pandemic is that it generates a lot of interest and excitement to make a lifestyle change, make a lifestyle choice, make it change in the way we, used to move within our neighborhood or from home to office or whatever. So I look forward to this event, and once again, I thank all of you for, coming in such large number. Your presence is a strength, and your presence can really be the kind of a game changer. We could say that so many women are so interested in cycling. And here we have a representative sample, so we can think of how many more are there. Unfortunately, we couldn't probably accommodate so many in a online session, but we really look forward to this discussion and hope to get some kind suggestions and recommendations, whatever they are, however simple they may seem to be. We would like to take these suggestions and incorporate in our planning process. Thank you so much.
Sure. Thank you, ma'am. You rightly said it's a conducive environment and the right time to have this discussion and move forward. So we'll now jump into the discussion. We have around 35 participants with us. So what we'll do is we'll break into three groups, three breakout rooms will be there. And each room will have a moderator. The moderator will take you through the questions, kind of drive the discussion. And we'll have about 25 to 30 minutes for the discussion. After that, we'll come back to the main session. The moderators will kind of summarize the important points which have been discussed in each of the breakout rooms so that we can have like a summary of all the points that have been discussed today. And then we'll close. So yeah, I think everybody will be assigned automatically to a breakout room, and then there you can take the discussion forward. Participants have applauded the initiatives which DULT and the Smart City is taking in terms of the cycle lane which is coming up on the outer ring road. And they would like more of those type of initiatives taken up by the authorities because it kind of helps in bringing a culture back to the city. Because India has been a place where cycling has already been there. It's there in our culture. So so these type of initiatives actually help in bringing back the message that, cycling is the way forward. That was one point. The other important point which came in was about the intersections. So a lot of women cyclists, or I would say generally cyclists, feel that, intersections are particularly not that safe to cross for cyclists. So that's something the authorities can take up, make it safe for cyclists to cross and in general redesign those junctions. There were a few cyclists who said that they could help us in identifying those junctions also. So I think we can get in touch with them to identify that what are those junctions which they specifically were talking about. So that's one. The other thing I'll close with this is the whole thing around the messaging and the culture building around cycling. A lot of women in the group said that they are daily cyclists. They commute to work on a cycle, and still they face some challenges. Like infrastructure is a separate thing, but this whole perception around cycling. So messaging is something which needs to be thought through more, so that we have like a larger impact in the long run. We not only have get more people to cycling, but also change the perception of motorists towards the cycling. So messaging is something which a lot of women cyclists feel is something that needs like a revival in terms of how we message this whole thing around cycling. So yeah, these are some of the challenges. Safety was not like a big concern. I mean, in some places it is when you're cycling on a highway or something, but in the city, it's not that a big concern as of now, like Bangalore, and somebody from Bangalore also shared that, that is an issue, but because since they've been cycling for a very long time, they have tried to find their way through to deal with if at all they face any issues of that sort. So yeah, those are some of the points that were discussed in our group. I think group 2 can then now can summarize the points. The moderator from group 2.
Yeah, thanks, Azra.
Yeah.
So even we had a lot of interesting points coming from various cyclists. So the major thing which was talked about was road safety. So a lot of them face problems while cycling on the road because there is no dedicated cycle lane. So the road safety has come up as a very important factor. Another important thing which came up was in terms of infrastructure needs was bicycle parking. So a lot of discussion happened around how to make it inclusive, how to include women of different sections of the society. So a lot of most of the times that what happens is their trips are shorter. They are mostly livelihood trips or something. So at that place, so people have to stop and buy things. So cycle stands or cycle parking is a very important factor because it also talks about safe parking for the cycles as well. So that is another thing which came up. Another thing which was very important point which came up was regarding last mile connectivity. So when we talk about public bicycle sharing scheme, of course it is one of the thing which helps us in last mile connectivity. But then there is a lot of requirement in terms of carrying my cycle to a certain very long distance. So if I can take my cycle in a metro or in a bus, or boarded in a bus, or I have some infrastructure there available where I can take my bicycle and then use it later wherever I'm going. So then that is also one major thing. So this is also for the children who want to go to their schools. So even school children can use something like this. So that is also another part in terms of infrastructure which came into the discussion. Another point we discussed was about training of children for cycling, so that they are empowered about it. They know about its sustainability. They know how important it is. So that is also one thing which came out. So of course, I mean, last mile connectivity, end-to-end infrastructure, empowering school children, all of these points came in. Along with that, there was one more point which was discussed, which I felt was quite interesting, was about mental wellness. So a lot of women feel that women are completely into their household work or something. So they get that small bracket wherein they can go out, be independent, go on a cycle. So sometimes it's just, being independent, being, looking at the whole space just by themselves. So it also gives you a feeling of independence, gives you so it's very important in terms of mental well-being of women as well. So how can that be possible? So how can we make our cycles? How can we make cycling that that something which is very pleasurable? How can we make it pleasing? And how can we make it more nice place to nice thing to happen in our cities? So these were a few important points which were discussed. And yeah, and another thing which was like specific to women riders, one was lighting. So women are generally comfortable riding in the daylight, but then at night we need proper lighting to feel safe. Another, and also along with lighting, there is a lot more requirement of resting spaces. So a lot of restrooms are required in terms of having restrooms at their office spaces as well, where you can go and change and then start working at your offices, as well as part of your public infrastructure, where you have proper clean restrooms where you can use the facilities, and the restrooms are such that you're not don't feel unsafe to enter a public toilet. So these kind of requirements. So these are some of the points we discussed during our breakout session. So,
Thanks, Madhura. Can we move to group 3, Sonal? Yeah.
Yeah, so during our discussion, a lot of very interesting points came up. A lot of them are covered by both group 1 and group 2 as well, which include safe parking spaces. There was a discussion on how in Bangalore we have good parking spaces built on Church Street, but they're lacking in some other spaces like metro stations and bus stations. Or like any other public space, so that women can feel safe parking their bicycles and taking their cycles more. So the other point that was made was to create awareness. So at the workplace itself, or by the government, creating more awareness on taking up cycling as a viable option. The third thing was more on how women themselves should come out and reclaim the space, because when you see a lot of women actually cycling and taking up the space, it makes it more safer for other women to join them. So the other points that were made were also about harassment by auto drivers and honking down women when they see the women cycling. So for that, some solutions that were suggested were putting up CCTV cameras or having some laws around protecting the cyclists, especially during accidents. The other point made was about dress code. So because Indian dress code is all about saris and dupattas, and some women might not be comfortable, and it's a dress code even at their workplace. For example, in colleges and for academicians, they have to wear a sari. I think even at government offices sometimes. So how can the manufacturing industry design better cycles for the needs of Indian women, especially Indian urban women, with respect to this dress code. The other point was also about getting more women to learn how to fix their own bicycle and getting them independent and strong to ride a bicycle and feel comfortable on a bicycle and not feel as if it's a difficult thing to do. So how can we have more women learn about how to fix punctures, how to fix any problems that come with the bicycle, so that when they're riding, they're not in their mind feeling that like if my bicycle gets punctured somewhere, or if it is not fixable, then how will I continue my journey? Availability of toilets for women was another point made. And in terms of lighting also, because in the nights it's important for light for lighting on streets to be placed so that the women feel safe, and also having a helpline for distress calls in terms of accidents or misunderstandings with bus motorists and fines based on CCTV footage. So in terms of the opportunities that the cities have provided for cyclists, it was very pleasant to know that many of the women cyclists feel that their cities are actually doing quite a bit, especially during these COVID times. So what came out was that in Bangalore especially, there's a very good cycling community, and there are local bicycle shops, women only repair shops, and also DULT, who's doing a lot of work around cycling. The only thing that one of them mentioned was that the parks like Kaban Parks and Lal Bags and lakes do not encourage cyclists. And the complaint or the problem with that that the women were saying was that these are the places where they can take their kids for actually recreation or teaching them cycling on weekends. So if these parks and lakes can be opened up for cycling, that would really help the women to take their kids out on a weekend. So in Mangaluru, it was mentioned that there has been a dedicated cycling lane of 17 kilometers that's being provided, and it involves connecting a lot of schools. So this is sort of an opportunity that is encouraged by many of these women cyclists, because they want their kids to be safe while cycling to school. And in Tumkuru, there are cycle repair workshops that have been set up for teaching women and other cyclists also how to repair their cycles. And also in Davangere, they have also mandated that there is one compulsory day of office riding to office by bicycle. So this is an opportunity that the city has given the cyclists and encouraged cyclists. So yeah, this was the discussion in group 3.
Thank you. I think that was an extensive list of, I think there are a lot of opportunities which all these cities have in the state. I think different cities have different type of opportunities, and they are taking like different steps and initiatives to promote cycling. So I think this is what the summary is from all the 3 groups. We'll also like put it down in writing, and we'll share with the authorities like what all points that have come up in all the 3 breakout rooms. So I think with this, we'll close off the discussion here. So I'd like to invite Hephsiba ma'am again to like share some of your thoughts first of all, and on this whole discussion. Hephsiba ma'am.
Hello.
Yeah,
I was in group 2 and listening to the other 2 teams also. It is interesting from the experience of different cities and their opinions. I think we were quietly thinking about cycle to work, and Davangere has already put it to action. So it's good. We'll also try to think of some initiative where at least we have one cycle hour or cycle to work day, some initiative where we can build more consensus and get going on this. One request I thought with the handlebar survey which we have taken up, if we do a very gender specific survey, I think we'll have more leads into how to design and make it more comprehensive. So whatever be the course of action, I'm more than happy to be part of it and take it to implementation. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you, ma'am. Manjula, ma'am, would you like to share some closing thoughts?
Thank you. First of all, I've also kind of jumped from one group to another to overhear the conversations, and the conversations have been pretty interesting. One point that kind of struck me was that most people felt, most women cyclists felt that there is no, women are not being singled out for being on cycle. So it appears like, in fact, somebody even mentioned that suppose say women cyclist falls, then there are more people trying to be, attending to her and things like that, which might not be the case when, let us say, male cyclist falls on road or something like that. So the thing is that there is no, majorly, it appears that there is no deliberate harassment or anything like that when women are on cycle. So, but the challenges that, and the second point that I noticed is the challenges that are being kind of, highlighted are generic in nature. As of now, whatever has come out of this discussion, the most important thing is about infrastructure. I think everybody has kind of unanimously said that there has to be better infrastructure, whether it is in terms of dedicated cycle tracks or safe junctions or proper lighting, and including public restrooms and things like that. The second point that came about is right messaging. So it is important that we need to use our IEC and communication tools and kind of drive home the message. And that is also linked to what Azra said, that which was the group's feeling that cycling culture was there with us, was a part of Indian ethos at one point of time, and we have lost it. We have actually gone backward, and it is time to actually now kind of move the clock forward and be more progressive. So the right messaging is something which many of the groups have highlighted, and I think it's a kind of a pointer that whatever infrastructure we may kind of do, and often infrastructure is the easiest to build and kind of maintain. Unless we do the other things like IEC activities, etc., we can't really take full advantage of the infrastructure that is there. The third point is, of course, of enforcement. Well, there is no deliberate harassment. There is no respect by motorcyclists. Whether it is women or man on cycle, they basically don't respect whether they are motorcyclists or their car owners or whatever. So we also need to have targeted messaging and targeted activities to make them feel that the road doesn't belong to them, but it also belongs to cyclists, pedestrians, and so on. It's been an interesting kind of a discussion with has thrown out some points, but I think today may be the beginning of the conversation, and I'm quite sure most of you would also have some points to kind of highlight. So when you, after today also, you're free to share your opinions, comments with us through either WRI, through directly, through Smart City, or through DULT, through WRI, or whichever forum you feel comfortable with, because these are the inputs that we need going forward. So I thank you. I thank everybody for kind of spending time and actually contributing to the discussion. And we hope we would have similar conversations, periodically. And we keep going back to you as a kind of the springboard for getting feedback on what we have done, whether we have done something right or wrong or whatever. Thank you very much.
Ma'am, if you allow, I'd just like to add 2 points.
Please.
Yes, ma'am, it was a very valid point that this is just the beginning of the conversation, and from what I've heard from the moderators, that while we covered most of the topics, I think there is a lot more to be said. So what we'll try to do is we'll kind of collate all the points that have been discussed so far and put it in a document, and we'll share it with the participants so that if they'd like to add some more points, I think that is something that would be really, really useful. And the second thing is that we'd really like to take a quick group photograph. So if everyone can put their cameras on, it'll be a really nice photograph to see everyone participating in this conversation. Great. Thank you so much. This was a really great conversation, and we will hope to see a lot more points added in that document that we share with you. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Sure,
Great.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.